Okay, today we are going to be reviewing expressions and equations. Before we start the review, please complete this quick poll question. Solve the equation 4x equals 2x. Continue on in the video only when you have your answer to check your solution. In class, I have a handful of students who tell me that this is no solution. It is not no solution, but please talk at your tables. What is the mistake that they're making when they say it is no solution? We'll solve it correctly in a second, but why would they think it's no solution? Talk at your tables. Ready, set, go. Okay, and now tell me, what do you think? Why is this happening? Yes. Yeah, thank you, Peyton. It appears that this is a lie, doesn't it? How can 4 of something ever be the same as 2 of something? It appears to be a lie. So I'm grateful that they're acknowledging when it's a lie, it's no solution, but this is not a lie. This is saying 4 of something is equal to 2 of something. Notice that we have x in 2 different places. We can't solve anything right now until those x's are consolidated into just one place. Yes, Fitz? Well, yes. So one of the things that we talked about in our last lesson is when I have x on both sides, look at how many x's we have. There's 4 x's here and there's 2 x's here. Is that the same number of x's? No. So right away, we know it shouldn't be no solution and it shouldn't be infinite solutions because we have a different number of x's. This is going to be a one solution type of problem. If we're looking for a lie, the lie would have to be in the units where we have the same number of x's, but we have different number of units. So the first thing that we should do is try and collect the x's to one side since we have different numbers of x's. So I'm going to subtract 2x from this side. To balance it, I need to subtract 2x from this side. I had 4x, I took away 2x, that leaves me with 2x, which is equal to 2x minus 2x is zeroed out, so 2x is equal to 0. I did have 3 students who typed this in. This is not a solution. X is not by itself. We don't know what x is when it says 2x equals 0. Finish solving the problem. If this were something like 2x equals 12, you would have to keep on solving. This is no different. 2x equals a number. We undo the x being multiplied by 2 by dividing each side by 2, just as we would do over here. So this is no different. It's 2x equals a number. When we do this, it divides out, and I have x is equal to, do the calculation. 0 divided by 2 is 0. So how could we have 4 of something being equal to 2 of something? If that something is 0, it works. 4 times 0 is equal to 2 times 0. Because 4 times 0 is 0, and 2 times 0 is 0. We are going to be reviewing today. Students in class have already worked on some of these problems. If you have not, please pause and work on some of these problems. You can make it through probably most of them. So pause the recording and make it through at least that front page before you continue. Okay, now that students have had a chance to go over all of these, you've paused the video, you've had a chance to go over all of these. Now we're going to, I'm not going to do them on the video yet, we're going to go over to the self-assessment. So this is a rubric that I passed out to you separate from the review. Have that in front of you. It's now time for you to rate yourself. So there are 3 different categories, 3 different sections, and you're going to rate yourself a 1, 2, 3, or 4. 1, minimal understanding, 4, substantial mastery. So the first skill or concept that we're kind of trying to rate ourselves on is understanding the meaning of a linear expression and a linear equation. I'm struggling with the difference between a linear equation and a linear expression. If you were not able to complete this, circling expressions and putting stars next to the equations, then you probably should rate yourself a 1. If you had the list and you were able to figure out which ones are which, then you're probably at least a 2. If you can define expression and equation in your own words, like what I'm asking you to do here, what's the difference between an expression and equation? Maybe, if you were successful with that, maybe that's going to be a 3. Or maybe I can define linear expression and equation in my own words, provide examples of each, not just select from a list, but actually make up an example of my own. I know what it means to simplify an expression, to evaluate an expression, and to solve an equation. If you were able to answer those remaining questions, evaluate, simplify, solve, even verify, then maybe you're going to be that level 4. Rate yourself. Where do you fall? Just circle it. Highlight it maybe, make it stand out so that I can see what you're rating yourself. The next category, so problem number 2, I said simplify each of the expressions. 3, I said solve each equation. So that's going to relate to the next part. Solve multi-step equations with rational number coefficients, including equations whose solution require expanding expressions using the distributive property and collecting like terms. So I am struggling to solve most of the equations on the following page. I can solve the equations in set A, I can solve all of the equations in set A, only some in B, or I can solve all of them. What that is referring to there is not just these ones, but if you go to the next page, please turn to the next page, there's the set A that it's referring to. There's the set B that it's referring to. Then we've got some stories below that. So you can probably start guessing, you can check in with yourself, yeah, I feel pretty good about everything I've done, I'm going to rate myself here or there, and then you can confirm it by actually solving those equations that are in set A and B. And the last one is write and solve linear expressions and equations that model real-world problems. I have 2 of those real-world problems. Are you able to do those? Where are you going to rate yourself based on that? So, as you're working through this review, I want you to pause and do this self-assessment. This will help guide you in the rest of your study in preparation for the test. If you're in the 1 or 2, you've probably got extra studying to do. If you're fine with 3 and 4, you probably only need to just finish the review assignment and you're good to go. You don't need to go back and finish other assignments. You don't need to go back and review any of the videos. So this self-assessment is going to help us know exactly how we need to study. So I'm going to go over some of these ones, but I'm going to let students work and assess themselves first. So I'm going to pause the recording one more time while students have a chance to do that. All right, let's go over these. Circle each expression, put a star next to each equation. I know that it's an equation if it has an equal sign. So here is an equation that has an equal sign, that's going to be a star because it's an equation. No equal sign here, there is an equal sign here, that makes it an equation. Equal sign makes it an equation, and an equal sign makes it an equation. Expressions do not have equal signs. So on all of these that don't have an equal sign, where it's just a math sentence containing numbers, variables, and operations to connect them, all of those are going to be expressions. Even this, still an expression. It's just the number 9, but it is made up of numbers, variables, there just don't happen to be any variables, operations, there don't need to be any variables. This is still an expression, just as that is an expression. So, simplifying the expressions from above, I think on this one I'm just going to show the answers instead of going through each process. You guys okay with that? Okay. All right, there's those answers. Notice that these first 3, I did show my work. I showed how I simplified. These last 2, they were already simplified, so I just put them in a category that they're already simplified. No work needs to be done there. For the equations that you should have solved, here's the answers on these ones. I don't want to spend the time on these ones. I'd rather spend the time on the ones from set A and set B. So you can just quickly check your answers on these ones. Any questions on any of those ones? Okay, let's discuss, please, as a whole class. What's the difference between an expression and an equation? Hopefully we learned from our mistakes on our last test. What is the difference between an expression and an equation? Charlie? Yeah, not too shabby. Especially where you said finding the value of the unknown. What that tells us is what it means to actually solve an equation. So not only do you know the difference, you know what you should be doing with equations. So yes, an expression is a math sentence. That math sentence is made up of numbers, variables, and operations. An equation is also a math sentence, but here's the key thing, and this is probably where your answer was lacking just a little bit, is it's a math sentence equal to another math sentence. We've seen this before. I've written that an equation is an expression equal to an expression. Sometimes the expressions are already simplified. Most often in this unit, they are not going to be already simplified. Where we have to simplify the expression, simplify this expression, then we can see that it's part of an equation which we can then solve. So that'd be the only suggestion I have for you, is a little bit better definition of what an equation is. Then understanding that it can be solved, that's important to later. Equations have equal signs and can be solved. Expressions are only simplified. So that leads into these words. And I don't want to give the answers away yet. I really want you guys to take a second to discuss, because that is part of this rubric. Do you know, let's see right here, can you define each of those? Do you know what each of those means? Are you a 4 or maybe you're only a 3? So discuss with your group, see if you can improve your understanding, evaluate, simplify, solve, verify. What does all of that mean with your groups? Ready, set, go. We're going to pause the recording as they discuss. What does it mean to evaluate an expression? Who thinks they know and will share with the class? Tage, give it a try. No. You're using a very English definition of evaluate, applying it to math. So we're not just going to look at it and see how cool it is and find all of its characteristical flaws. What does it mean to evaluate an expression? Emery. Nope, that's not it. Again, you're applying an English thought on the word evaluate to a mathematical situation. It doesn't translate that well. Last one, Seth. Nope, we can't solve expressions. We can't solve expressions. That's why it says simplify these expressions. We can't solve an expression. This is not new information. This is from a previous lesson. So you guys need to study 1.1a. When I evaluate an expression, I'm not just looking at it and judging it. It means I'm giving you a value for the variable. And I substitute that value in for the variable. And then it's just a number sentence, no variables at all, because I've substituted the variable for a number. So then I can just simplify it. Like I said, if you were unable to do this, you need to go back to 1.1a, Utah Middle School Math Project 1.1a. And we did it in 1.1b. Let's see if you do better here. What does it mean to simplify an expression? Fitz, give it a try. Yeah, basically, we're making it less complex. How exactly do I do that? How do I simplify? If I'm making it less complex, what are some of the things that I'm doing? Daxton? Yeah, kinda. Specifically, what I'm doing, when I'm making it less complex, I'm combining like terms. I'm removing terms from groups. Just like we did up here. You simplified these. What did you do? Yes, we made it look less complex. How? We got rid of the grouping symbols and said instead of 8 groups of this, let's just talk about what we have. And then we're like, oh, look we've got x's in 2 different places. Let's simplify that and combine those into just one term. So you do need to know what it means to simplify. Yes, Tage.
So it's like grammar. Break it down and make it less wordy and easier.
Yes. Thank you for the advertisement for Grammarly. That was great. I think you watch too much YouTube and you're getting too many Grammarly ads because you had that memorized like an infomercial. Let's try this one. What does it mean to solve an equation? You guys solved these equations, but what does it actually mean? Charlie knows because she gave it as part of her definition earlier. Let's see if anyone else paid attention to what Charlie said. Danielle.
I wrote down that it's like to find out what
Exactly, yeah, that's a great explanation. What we're doing is we're finding the value of the variable that is going to actually make it true. There are steps that we do, like we undo all the things that happened, right? But what are we really doing is we're figuring out what the value is that makes it true. Right, Charlie? That's what you said earlier too. Last one. I know you guys are going to struggle with this one because you struggled all the other times I've asked. What does it mean to verify a solution? Oh, good. I actually do have hands. Jaden, what does it mean to verify a solution? How? You're right. We're confirming it's correct. How do we confirm that it's correct? Nope. That would be justifying. Justifying would be using a different way of solving it. That would be a justification. But what is a verification? How do I verify? Gracie. But how do I check the answer? Last try, Emma. Exactly. So remember what solving is. Solving is finding the value that makes it true, and then verifying is, hey, I got this value. What if I plug it in? Is it going to be true? It would be if it's correct. Verifying a solution is checking your answer, but specifically we're plugging in the answer that we got when we solved the equation and then seeing if it's true. Can you use your calculator for that? Sure. But it's not just using your calculator, it's using your calculator in a very specific way. And now that we have confirmed, well, maybe retaught all of the things that we should have learned in this unit, this is kind of the test. Number 9. Sam was asked to evaluate this expression. 5x plus 3x plus 20. He was asked to evaluate it for x equals 100. Maybe review what evaluate means so you can figure out Sam's mistake. With your groups, talk about it. Ready, set, go. Pause the recording for a short amount of time. All right, Daxton, what do you think Sam's mistake is? That's exactly right. He turned it into an equation. Can you what? Thank you for giving credit to Emma, who knew what it really was. And hold on, it's not copying over the way that it should. Try it here. You, word for word, put down what I had in the answer key. He turned it into an equation. I literally just copied it over from the answer key. So what should Sam have done? He did turn it into an equation. It was an expression. He's like, oh, let's just make it equal to 100. What should he have done, Seth? He should have substituted. So back to the original, 5x plus 3x plus 20. But x is 100. So all of these x's need to change to 100s. When I plug that in, substitute it in, I have 5 times 100 plus 3 times 100 plus 20. 5 times 100 is 500. 3 times 100 is 300 plus 20. So what is this simplified when we have evaluated for x equals 100? 820. Very different answer, isn't it? Yeah, very different answer. We can't solve an expression. Okay, that's it for this video. Students who are watching the video, what I encourage you to do if you're following along is you should complete sets A and B in these stories so that we can talk about them tomorrow and in the next video. So please complete these for homework if you have not already completed them. That's it. Thanks for watching. See you next time.